What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be doing a review of The Well of Ascension, Book 2 in the Mistborn Trilogy by Sanderson. This is a thick book, boys. It's 763 pages in this little paperback edition. It's a pretty long book. I was reading between 40 and 100 words a night, and it still took me a while to read it. Basic summary. In the previous book, the Final Empire was overthrown by Vin and the crew, but unfortunately Kelsier died for that mission, for that goal, for that cause. And now we are dealing with the repercussions. We immediately start off with Luthadel under siege and under the command of Ellen Venture, who is Vin's love interest, who came into prominence at the very end of the previous book, but we end up exploring a lot more about him and his struggles to take authority and be the king that Luthadel needs, while also sticking to his values and his principles. And it's that those two things together are a major point of conflict in this story. Secondly, we have Vin's conflict arc, right? They're really the two main characters, and then everyone else is kind of around them, even though a bunch of characters have big arcs in this story. Along Vin's primary arc is her struggle to rectify her identity with what's around her, who she thinks she's supposed to be, who she thinks she is, and who she actually is. Vin struggles a great deal internally in this book, and we really explore her mind and travel with her through her mental journey here. She is currently trying to keep Ellen alive because, as I said, Luthadel is under siege, and the enemies, two enemies, one being Ellen's father, sieging the city, are sending assassins after Ellen, and Vin is trying to protect him. She also ends up meeting another Mistborn named Zane, who opens up a sort of a rift in her already weakened psyche. He pushes her in a direction which at least I didn't want her to go. It really keeps you on the edge of your seat to see where Vin's growth is going to go, if she's going to make mistakes, and what mistakes those are, right? So we have the two plot points of Ellen trying to remain king and keep Luthadel, Vin and her internal struggles stemming from Zane and her relationship with Ellen. Thirdly, the myths are beginning to linger longer, right? They were previously burned off by the sun right away, and now they're starting to stick around for a while after sunrise, which they had never done before. Also, Vin is seeing a phantom in the mist. It is just a humanoid creature composed of mist that really doesn't even look like it's there until she's right up next to it. So we follow those three plot lines. I won't go into any more detail on those. I don't want to spoil anything for you. So let's jump into the first and most important aspect of the story, which is the character conflicts. I want to start off with Ellen, because I feel like that's where the story started, and he is a leading character within the story. Ellen is a philosopher and scholar who is struggling to become a king and attempting to become a wiser, stronger, better man. I thought his development was really quite good. I will say he didn't have a lot of veering off course, right? Ellen's development is fairly linear. He does have his internal doubts, and we do get to see them, but for the most part, he just kind of goes up and up and up in his development towards what he's trying to achieve. Vin, on the other hand, she has a much more rocky road in this story. She deals a lot with the trauma of her past. Vin is not a particularly mentally healthy character. I I guess you could say she has PTSD. I don't really know much about mental illness, but there's clearly some effect of her past that are carrying over, as we saw in the first book where she was shy and timid and flinched and afraid all the time. She is moved beyond that, but there's still a heavy burden of that on her. And the vast majority of the book is just her struggle with that and us seeing whether or not she can advance beyond her limitations, right? I thought Vin made this book. Vin is a character with an interesting personality. She is not boring by any means, which is a common thing among main characters, right? There's so many main characters in books where you think, who, it's just a name, it's just a guy. Like, you could put a faceless guy with a name in this story and have him with no personality or minimal personality, most of it which revolved around saying yes to what he needed to say yes to in the plot, and that is the main character for thousands of stories. Vin is not that. Vin is quite interesting and has quite a lot of personality, and we spend a lot of time in her head. We spend a lot of time in Ellen's head, or Sazed's head, or even Zane's head, but we spend more time in Vin's head than anyone else's, by far, and I think that serves the book well. Sazed, as always, is a fascinating character in this book, especially towards the end of the book, as he just deals with the trauma of the events that are going on, and questions his beliefs and who he is, which is not a path that I would have particularly expected Sazed to go on, because he was kind of a paragon in the first story, right? He almost always had wise words or knew what to do or could comfort other characters, and now we get to see Sazed with a lot more struggle of his own. Zane, our sort of, I don't even know if you'd classify Zane as a villain. I mean, he's a villain, but he's not. He's one of those gray area characters who is there to serve himself, right? His loyalty really isn't to anyone. He's just out for himself. And I thought Zane was an interesting character, but he's more interesting because of his influence upon Ben. Zane by himself in the story, we don't particularly get enough information about to care for him outside of his interaction with, one, Vin, and two, Straff. Straff, Ellen's father, is in a way a generic villain. He's cruel, demented, manipulative, abusive, power hungry, all of these things. But he is portrayed in a way that is very visceral and very repulsive. And I think Sanderson did a fantastic job writing him. Seat, also a villain within the story, is a more interesting villain, but a less threatening villain. I don't think I need to talk on him all that much. Wrapping up my ramble on characters here, Ellen and Vin are really why you're here. And really, Vin is why you're here. And she does a fantastic job of filling that role and going beyond her role in the story and being more alive, more fleshed out than just what the plot demands. Speaking of the plot, the first half, 60% of the book, is focused on the political intrigue and Vin's internal dilemma. And I'd almost chuck it up to one, political intrigue. Plot is kind of the backdrop, but the main portion of plot is character development, character exploration, character growth or lack thereof, which was interesting and is part of the reason why I love this book so much, but also wasn't plot focused, if that makes sense. It was character focused. Then as we break into the latter half of the book, the plot for me really picked up and really got very interesting. And by the end of the book, as I was finishing up last night, I think I had 70 pages remaining maybe. As I was getting bed, 80 pages. I thought, oh, I'll just read a chapter tonight or something and go to sleep. I read them all because I really, really wanted to know how it ended and what was going on. I stayed up way too late so that I could finish this book. The plot was interesting, compelling, fantastic twists worked in the start, or mysteries revealed, and the first half of the story is kind of revealed in a new light by the second half, which I think is the mark of a good twist, so long as it's, you know, not, oh look, aliens. That's a terrible twist. Don't ever do that in your books, please. Anyway, you all already know my thoughts on the magic system. Allomancy, fantastic. I love the rules, I love the limitations. It makes the characters be very creative, which is a lot of fun for me, because they are so limited in what they can do, and yet their tool set is very diverse. They can manipulate the rules of their tool set in very creative and interesting ways. I think that is the best mark of a magic system as far as hard magic systems go. If you're looking for a soft magic system, this ain't it, G. Also, Ferrochemy is more fleshed out in this book. Still not as explored as Allomancy, but we do get quite a bit of it towards the latter half of the book. And it is also a really cool, interesting, creative magic system that is bound by rules in a similar way. It's just a little bit of a more straightforward magic system right now. However, I think there's a lot of room for exploration of it. Before I wrap up this review, which was all over the place and rambling, I have to talk about the ending of the book. What did I think of the ending? Because I am someone who cares about endings. If you're someone who can read a book that is good most of the way through, and it has a ending, and you can still love the book, I'm jealous. Because if I'm dissatisfied with an ending, it can really, really put a damper on the book. Thankfully, The Well of Ascension has a fantastic ending. It completely took the story in a direction that I did not see, and made it very, very exciting. And I want to be reading the other book right now. As a matter of fact, as this video is uploading, I'm probably reading The Hero of Ages, Book 3. So the ending was fantastic. I realized that I didn't give ratings to anything. Well, let me run through this. Characters, 9.5. Plot, 8.5. Magic system, 10. Overall, The Hero of Ages, 9 out of 10. Fantastic book. Definitely read the Mistborn Trilogy by Brandon Sanderson if you haven't already. Let me know what you think below if you have. I love talking about this stuff. If I enjoy a series or if I hate a series, I love talking about it and why. And I really enjoy the breakdown of books and stories in general. So, like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all very much for watching. 9 out of 10 for The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. You all have a wonderful day.